Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and super intelligent shades of the colour blue, you're all welcome here, however you might identify. Today, my very special guest is Coach Stephen, and the idea, I'm told, is that he wants to fire some questions at me about stuff and things, and I love it. Put me on the spot. Make me
That is correct. I'll do my best. I'll do my best. Let me preface this by saying I'm a huge fan of your material. I've learned an exorbitant amount of things from you and your fine channel and the work that you dedicate to us. So from right off the top of from the top of this, I want to say thank you for all you do. I think you're a great resource, and I hope that you get propped up and much bigger and you keep going up, because I think that you're a great resource for our community. So I wanted to say that first.
Appreciate that very much. Thank you. And it shows very poor judgment on your part.
It does, huh?
That's an old joke, but still a good one.
Oh, sorry. My first question for you, though, was I've listened to a lot of your material, and I've often heard you reference an expression that I don't understand. So for the lay person such as me, what is it that you mean when you say signal to noise ratio?
Got it. Brilliant. Great question. Okay. When a scientist wants to measure something, the something they want to measure is the signal. It's the thing we're looking for. An analogy, imagine someone playing with a ham radio, trying to find a station, the signal. So what a scientist is doing is trying to find a signal on whatever their outcome variable of interest is. And so you might say the outcome variable I'm interested in is the height of men aged 18 in my home country of New Zealand, as that relates to some aspect of their experience of life, probably a food-related item, something like that. Okay. What I will get is, if there is a relationship between the variables concerned, the whatever food dietary thing that's supposed to be involved with men attaining their full genetic height versus them doing so or not, what you'll find is that the full genetic grown height of men is not the same value for all men. Some men are taller than other men, aren't they? As such, there's a normal Bayesian or bell-shaped distribution of height in fully grown men. Assuming that men are fully grown at 18, that might not even be true either. I'm just making a lot of assumptions here for the description of this thing. That spread of data around that curve, that's noise. The signal is the average value that we're going to report.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense now.
So if your measurement technique, your piece of kit that you're using, your whatever meter that goes beep, 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 boop, and gives you a number, if that is not 100% accurate in what it measures, that's also another form of noise. That's technical error. So you've got biological error, spread of people. You've got technical error. The piece of kit might not be 100% accurate at all times. And then you've got another thing called researcher error, where bias can be introduced into data collection, either knowingly or unknowingly, either with malice aforethought for funding purposes or not. That's noise as well. So when you look at
several things.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So when you look at an outcome statistic presented to you in a peer-reviewed piece of literature that you're reading, to understand how good that outcome metric is in terms of its accuracy, we consider the signal-to-noise ratio. To do a quick calculation of that, you need to understand the statistics that have been done, the statistical procedure by which those numbers have been derived, so that you have the conceptual background to go, signal to noise is massive here. That's where most people fall down, among other places, when they
think most people.
Well, this is the thing, and I'm not casting aspersions.
Yeah.
Other than to say, well, look, this is a bit of Dunning-Kruger from people at large, the general public, people who are not scientifically trained, statistically trained, people who don't have a significant list of peer-reviewed publications of their own that they have conducted the stats on, in my mind, are simply not qualified to comment on those peer-reviewed publications publicly. They should not do it because they make mistakes every single time they open their mouths. I mean, if they want to do it to give me grist for my mill for who's wrong on the interwebs this week, absolutely they should carry on doing so. But seriously, I mean, I am not trained as an electrician, so I'm not going to make public statements about how to be an electrician.
It's baffling to me. I found your content. I was very deep into this, and I've been doing this for several years, eating this way. And I found this way of eating through Dr. Sean Baker, who's a guy I respect a lot. I too was in the United States Air Force like him, and I always knew that diet was a bit of a contentious topic. I always knew that people had it was a mishmash, And one of the ways that I don't think gets talked about with Dr. Sean Baker quite a bit is that he was a former nuclear weapons launch officer, and the clearance required for that is extraordinarily high. They are going to talk to every person who if every neighbor, every teacher, every friend of a friend, relative, everything, And in order to get that clearance, your moral turpitude is going to need to be really, really high. So that to me was how I got started in this. And once I got started, I learned about the flaws that were in observational research. And I had been looking into this for several years at that time when I came across, it was actually the Schwartz kid before he kind of went off the hills, Bart. Before he went nuts. And he asked me if I had heard of you. And I was like, no, I never heard of him. And I typed your name into YouTube, and I was just like that. It's hard to, because you have a career in academia right here in this very field, and it's very difficult for anybody to undercut your credentials and your experience. And I was like, this is really powerful here, because this is a guy who's, obviously been right here in this field for 3 decades. How can you tell him that this is incorrect? And when you take the stance that you take, and it's like, basically, hey, come tell me I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, come tell me I'm wrong. And that allured to me, and I was like, man. But my next question to you is right along the lines of this. Where did science fall off the rails? Has it, nutrition science in general, has it always been like this? Right. Has it always been this cesspit?
Yeah. Okay. Nutrition science, human nutrition science, that is and always has been a ring-fenced area of ideology and theology underpinned by the almighty greenback. It's bought and paid for, the whole lot of it. It's garbage. Absolute garbage. It's a cesspit. There is some good actual nutrition science available for animal models, because we can do experiments on animals. Unfortunately for human beings, that's not so. And no such experimental interventional work exists. And the discipline of the scientific method is to make conclusions on the basis of the veracity and type of data you have collected. In order to speak on cause and effect, ergo risk, hazard, likelihood, you must, via the scientific discipline, you are required by doctrine to collect data that is collected from genetically identical, pairwise sets of individual human beings who are kept under lock and key and full control for every aspect of their experience of the universe, except for your outcome variable you're looking to vary between those two groups, to experimentally observe them for the required period of time. So you want to talk about health outcomes over 40 or 50 years, that's how long they're in the lab for. You with me? Never going to happen. Cannot happen. It's not logical to even attempt. It's not ethical. You'll never get it past an ethics committee. It's not practical. Who wants to give up their life? It's not financially viable. It's going to cost so much to do. So, therefore, what we have is observations made on large populations retrospectively. This was associated with that. That was associated with the other thing. That's fine to provide that kind of data to us and say, look, these are some associations out there. What is not fine is to then turn around and say this association proves cause and effect, because it cannot do that. You've broken the rules, the disciplines of science. You're up for court-martial there in the scientific speak of it.
This seems like such a fundamental thing.
Yeah.
I mean, like, from somebody who I've been to college. I got a master's degree. It's in a completely unrelated field. I'm a military man. I was in Homeland Security. It's nothing related, but I do have a serious interest in this, and I've looked into it for several years now. I don't have a scientific background, and in 30 seconds, I knew that. How is that getting broken? How is it that it gets? It seems like to the layperson that that's such a fundamental, frankly, for my speech, a fuck up. How is it that is allowed? How is it? Is it just because of the greenback, like you said?
Most of what you'll find in human nutrition science and several other fields as well, like pharmacology and allopathic medicine, you will find all of that stuff underpinned by money rather than by good, well-controlled, well-powered, properly tenured experimental interventions. Absolutely. You will find data being massaged so hard that it's not recognizable to the original data set that was actually collected, and that being published as if it's some kind of scientific observation. You'll find that these proponents of disinformation will use statistical methodology so complex that the average Joe has no hope of refuting what was done. It's taking the Jack Kruse approach, talking to people in a way that is above them, that they cannot argue with you because they can't understand what you've said.
Correct. Yeah.
If you know who Jack Kruse is, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about there.
Over me. But I got the reference. So I understand what you're trying to get at. Like, it's put in a way to intentionally be so unbelievably confusing that the person like me who doesn't have the experience in statistics is going to look at it and be like, well, you must be right because I can't tell you if you're wrong or not.
That's it. In a nutshell, yes.
That seems criminal.
Trust the science. Don't question the science, Stephen.
Yeah,
I'm the science. Trust me.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not. This is the science. This bloke.
Oh, yeah.
He's the science. Trust him.
So I got one more question, or a few more, actually. So I've heard you reference your career several times. Yeah. I heard you say one time, sort of in the lines of like you had left academia because of the bullying. And you were like, hey, listen, I'm done with this. I'm going to go do my own thing. Where were you in your career, and why was it that you kind of no longer decided to toe the line, so to speak? I was employed at various levels, at various ranks, if you like, in academia, from entry level right through to 5-star general in academia terms, over just over 2-decade period. I was employed during that time in no less than 10 different universities, colleges, seats of higher learning, etc. So my average tenure at any one given employer was 2 years. The longest stint I did at any one employer was 3 years, precisely because at no point from the very beginning was I prepared to toe anybody's line. Okay. Mm-hmm.
I was not manageable in that regard because, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending how you view it, I hate saying this, but I was clearly apparently much smarter than the professors who had taught me the material that they'd tried to teach me, and I'd got much better hold of it than they had got. And then I went off out into academia under my own steam, to go and prove the world wrong in regards to several issues. And I did quite well at it because I published quite a few peer-reviewed articles discussing various aspects of the stuff that I had problems with in various different fields of endeavor. Because I actually changed my specialized topic of being an academic 3 times as well during that 20-something years. I started out as an exercise physiologist. Then I decided human nutrition was my interest. And at the very end of my academic career, I'd moved further away again to cardiovascular pathophysiology, what makes hearts be healthy or not, atherosclerosis and all of that, heart disease and all of that. So I was definitely not towing the line in that last field because
where I said, like, I would imagine that was where, because I mean, you obviously are a denier of cholesterol. So
that's it. I'm a denier. Yes.
A denier. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. So what precipitated me finally deciding I wasn't going to try and be an academic anymore was the bullying was there throughout the entire time. So there was nothing different in that. The attempted bullying, I should really call it, because nobody bullies me. Never has been able to. So
I gotta tell you, you and Ted don't seem like the type who would take bullying.
No, exactly. So there was the attempt at bullying. There was the making my life difficult because I wasn't going to comply with the way they wanted me to do things. I was going to do it the way I was entitled to do it legally, because academics have academic freedom. It's guaranteed. It's in the law. There was the fact that as an academic at the rank I was at, even at the top rank, the lowest bound of the income bracket of that rank was what I was stuck at, because I was an agitator and a problem, and so they were going to tolerate me at the base level, and I was never going to get a raise, basically.
Yeah.
I was going to get CPI, cost of living increase, if I was lucky. And I was aware of this. I was like, no extra notches on my belt for me ever.
No,
I'm a bad boy sort of thing. So
you make people
there was that. There was also a period of tumult in my personal life. I got divorced around that time. And that, for those that haven't been through it, is a very, very expensive experience, both financially and otherwise. And so I was kind of ready to completely change directions. And I was also at a point where I'd realized that suddenly my financial position was such that I needed to earn more than I was ever going to do in academia. And that was actually the primary reason at the end, where I went, right, we're pulling up the stakes here, and I'm going to go and do something where I'm going to set my own income. And the rest is history. Yeah.
And then and then you join the world of the YouTubes, which is just, and you and a few other people are public enemy number one for vegans. And now I've joined this and I have experienced this. My goodness, these people are insane.
Yeah.
I recently graduated with it's like a 6-month course from Mark Sisson. He taught to become a certified health coach. The way I got into this was because of my father. My father got very sick. I don't know if you're familiar with kind of the culture in different parts of the United States. The Midwest is quite, real cold, sedentary, beer drinking, bratwurst, football. That's the type of culture it is. And my dad was a metabolically unhealthy gentleman, and he just kind of was one of those people that refused to acknowledge that he was a type 2 diabetic by the age of 40, and he ended up getting a very serious bout with cancer at 58, and he got about 10 weeks, and it was very tragic. And in the lead up of him kind of passing away, in the last 10 weeks, I was really I read this book by a woman named Jane McClellan. It's called How to Starve Cancer. I don't know if you're familiar. Are you familiar with it?
Not that particular book.
I read it, and there was a large portion of that book that was dedicated to human nutrition and the metabolic poison, I'll go with, that is carbohydrate. And that book was where it started, because I was like, man, I do a lot of this. Like I eat a lot of these things. And, I never really thought I was an athlete my entire life. I've been a Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighter for many years. I've been an avid weight trainer. And I'm like, I eat this stuff. And then it kind of led me down this wormhole. And then, I started being this kind of crazy guy after I found these crazy carnivore people. And I started trying it on myself. And my own personal anecdote was I had a lot of issues with pain and inflammation in my hands and knees, and it was just gone. And I was like, this is really something. Like I never knew that diet could be that powerful of a lever. I led my whole life kind of ignorant to that. And then, it happened and I felt better. And then I ended up being this crazy guy who was constantly talking about what people are eating. And then that led me to, Marxist, and I graduated from the course. And then I started, the ancestral perspective, and I'm starting to take clients and stuff. But what I'm getting at is the absolute cesspit that is the vegans coming at you. They're just something. But they always reference this thing called the hierarchy of evidence.
Yeah.
And I've listened to you talk about this quite a few times, and they really get stumped when you ask them, what data underpins the hierarchy, which is literally a lot of the things that I say are coming straight from you, and I'll tell you why. If someone with the academic CV like you is going to put this information out there for free and allow me to learn it, I'm going to take advantage of it. I'm going to listen to you, but that stumps the hell out of them. So my question to you is, what is this hierarchy? Why do they reference it, and why is it bogus?
Right. The hierarchy of evidence is this chart that is drawn out that looks like your typical pyramidal structure. It's a triangle, and it's got lines through it, and it says this is the base, this is the worst level of evidence available, this is better than that, that's better than the next one, this one's better again, and here's the absolute peak, the top of the hierarchy of evidence. You've hit the nail on the head yourself right there by asking the question to these people. Great, this is your hierarchy. What empirical experimental data underpins the formulation of this hierarchy? For which they will not have any answer because there isn't one. And the reason there isn't one is because the hierarchy is somebody's opinion about the goodness of scientific evidence or veracity of it or whatever. Now, when you look at any one of these hierarchies, what you'll find at the very bottom where it says this is the lowest form of evidence, it'll say opinion. The thing debunks itself. We're done with that. Science is an empirical dichotomous, yes or no, accept or reject the hypothesis activity based on empirical evidence, numbers. It's not somebody's opinion about which numbers are better than other numbers. All numbers that are collected stand on their own merits. Any one individual paper is either of good quality, moderate quality, or it's a piece of shit. Mostly it's the latter.
Yeah.
And the problem, it circles back to my original statement around if you yourself are not scientifically trained, if you yourself have not conducted research, done the statistics and published the paper yourself with your name as first author in the literature, you are not qualified, probably, to tell me whether a piece of paper has got good information, moderately good information, or bullshit all over it. That's the problem.
Yeah, I'll tell you, just from the a lot of the information that I've picked up listening to you, like, in different discussions and comment threads with, it doesn't even have to be vegans. It could be anybody, but they'll put like PMIDs on it. And I've even learned like how to find holes in the research. Like a guy will link a study and it'll be a 6 and 12-month follow-up study. And I'll be like, so what they did here was they told these people and they gave them instructions on how to eat. And they said, we'll follow up with you at 6 and 12 months. That's not science. It's not even anything even remotely into science. And not only that, they were comparing, I forget, it was like a low carb diet to a high carb diet or something along those lines. I'd have to re-reference it. But the way they defined a low carb diet was anything 40% and 40% of your diet from carbohydrate. I go, 40% is an immense amount of carbohydrate in the diet. How would that be in any realm a low carb diet? This is lunacy.
Yeah.
Like, and you guys cite this as if it has any credibility whatsoever. It's complete nonsense. This is not science.
Yeah.
I've had several conversations with Eddie Goki, and he's a sharp kid.
Good. Yep.
He's a good kid. I like Eddie. I like Eddie a lot. And, he's really, really getting into biochemistry and stuff. And I've tapped into that too, but it's confusing. It's hard. But I'll tell you, the hard sciences, when you look at those, like comparative anatomy, and you look at like the chemical anthropology, which is also really confusing, or like our evolutionary history and the stable isotope studies and those things, you can't really get away from the inevitable conclusion. It's really simple. And it seems like people will go through incredible amounts of mental gymnastics to get away from the absolute truth that's staring right in their face. Yeah. This guy, what was it, Rogers guy? That was hysterical.
We can't possibly be carnivores, you see, for we lack the sharp, pointy teeth.
What in the purple fuck is he thinking? How could you say
He's absolutely what Peter Rogers was doing was attempting once again to read out the same old script.
Yeah.
The same old song that those absolute fuck monkeys sing. Sorry, but spade's a spade.
It is. It is. Especially after you've explained it to him, and then he goes and makes another video.
Yeah.
Anyway, please continue.
He makes a video where he ignores absolutely everything I said, which completely dismisses his entire argument, and just makes his argument again as if it's just water off a duck's back to these clowns. It's theology. You cannot get through to these people. They don't want you to get through. They're not interested in what you have to say. They think the theology is correct, and so therefore they will defend it to the death, some of them. Anyway, yes, there was that. Good fun. Actually, what's really funny is that I think it was like a couple days before I found your material. A gentleman by the name of Vegan Bazooka. I'm sure you remember this. We're all acquainted. Yeah, we know the bloke. Yep.
He reached out to me.
Yeah.
And I actually had a phone conversation with him, and it was the first conversation. He wanted to have a civil discussion with me. And I felt very prepared for this debate. I feel like I could take out a debate myself at this point. Like, I've listened to so much of your own material, and I've been doing this for years, and I'm like, and you can't reason with these people. Like, then what I don't understand is, like, if you listen to 5 minutes of your material, any person who's got 3 brain cells can listen to you talk and like, this is a gentleman who really knows what he's talking about. Like, it's not, and I'm not even trying to like gas you up. That's the truth. It's clear as day that this is a person who really does understand what he's talking about. And for someone to get on and have a debate with you, I mean, it's great fun for the Meat Militia and me and everybody who's watching. We love it. Just please do it, because it's going to be great entertainment. But I can't believe they've got the fucking intestinal fortitude to front up and do it. Good on them, like Vegan Bazooka did. That was hysterical. Oh my goodness! Like, why would you do it?
For notoriety, for clicks,
for just to get clicks. You get
to be seen. Either that, or he genuinely was that intellectually disadvantaged that he thought he actually was going to have a point or be able to foot it with yours truly in a debate. I don't know. I think it has to be that he was just looking for some attention.
It has to. No, he was serious. He was on the phone with me, and he was citing, the observational research, the epidemiology, and all these other things. And I was like, this has really got you fooled, man. Like, this is not science, and it's bought and paid for to boot. Like, the only answer to this is that he didn't watch any of your material, because if he did, in 5 minutes he would have been like, I'm completely out of my lane here.
Yeah, just like the bloke who decided, the keyboard or touchscreen warrior, whatever, that decided on that other platform formerly known as Twitter recently that he was going to tell this guy all about it. He was, I'll debate you on this topic. He said, I'll show up. And I'm like, fine. Hello. And he's like, it was pants, didn't he? Didn't even show up for the debate.
He didn't. What was his name again? The doctor, with an F, right?
You mean
one guy? It was Sir Brave Homeless or whatever. And then
he didn't show up, and he actually tapped a champion. He said, I'm going to send my mate that's going to deal with you, before he knew who it was he was talking to, because he was that stupid he couldn't work out who this is on Twitter. right? And he said, I'm gonna send my mate. He's gonna sort you out. He knows all about this. I said, great. Who's that? He said, Gil Carvalho. I just about shit myself laughing.
He said, bring Gil here. Yeah,
You bet.
Gil was fantastic. We got several videos on Gil. I love it. It's great fun.
And anyway, neither he nor Gil showed up for the debate at this point in time.
Of course they didn't. You know, there's several people that are online on Instagram and on TikTok and stuff that they don't want to even have a debate, or I've offered to have a discussion with these people, even just me, and they don't want to have the discussion even with me. It's almost as if they know they're wrong. Do you think they do? Do you think Gil secretly knows he's full of shit?
It's hard for me to project what goes on in the minds of some of these individuals, because I really do believe many of them are very seriously cognitively impaired by their theologically driven, anti-humanist, destitute diet.
Yeah.
I think, logical thought eludes them.
I have a lot of experience with one. He works with me. I have another career, and he's a 24 or 27 year vegan, and the boy cannot stay on topic. He's all over the fucking shop, and it's clear as day. And he likes to try and have these conversations with me, and I just wash him, and he's like, it's very clear that there's issues, cognitively, he can't stay on task. He's all over the place. He's moving the goalposts. It is clear as day that there's issues going on here. And anybody who's around, he's very forgetful and stuff. And I'm like, bro, get a piece of damn steak in you, will you? Jesus. Just
Or, look at a book by not a Dr. Greger, How Not to Age is the title of his book. I'm like, do you own a fucking mirror, son?
And then,
how not to age, you say? Okay.
Yeah, you look at the carnivore community, and everybody looks robust and healthy. They're all alert and cognitive. They're there. They're fucking Sean Baker's jacked. He's massive. He's a world renowned athlete. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. I don't know. It's a shame, really. That I'll tell you though. I think my favorite episode from you was the Paul from Norwich.
Oh, good. Yes.
Can you explain the first law of thermodynamics for a beginner like me?
Oh, God, this will be fun.
Not really.
Oh, fuck! Oh, gold! Oh, fucking gold! Oh! Woo. Oh, case closed, Your Honour. Join me next time when someone else won't be quite as stupid as Paul from Norwich, because that's fucking impossible. I'm all wrong about calories in, calories out, but tell us about the first law of thermodynamics, Paul. Oh, not really. I don't know anything about that.
I would say just Google it.
Well, you've made my day, Paul. You really have, son. For those that don't know, that's our old mate Hinch Herbivore, he calls himself. Yeah.
That's got some absolute gold
in that. This is a bloke who was going to show me up to be an absolute idiot that doesn't know anything about anything and, whatever. And one of my fine supporters was asking him one or two questions about thermodynamics on his live stream. Oh dear.
That's reminds me is that gets brought up a lot is the thermodynamics argument, and I've looked into it, and it because I know that you've read our friend Lane Norton. He was talking about the first law of thermodynamics, and I got that clip where you're he doesn't know what he's talking about. And then you said that the first law of thermodynamics does not apply to an open thermodynamic system. It's only a closed thermodynamic system. But when you Google that, it seems to say different. Right. It said it applies. So could you explain to me how to understand that a little bit better?
Okay. The first law of thermodynamics is a mathematical statement. And it says in symbolic form, this is the message. It says the internal energy of a closed thermodynamic system is equal to the heat added or subtracted minus the work done. It's work and heat, thermodynamics. Excluded from that statement mathematically anywhere is a statement about mass. And when people say managing your body fat is all about calories in, calories out, the first law of thermodynamics says so, that's where the problems begin. That's where a half-hour lecture begins, because not only does the first law of thermodynamics not say that, what Lame Norton is suggesting is also completely false. Because Lame Norton suggested that the first law of thermodynamics says that mass is conserved. It's neither created or destroyed. It only changes from one form to another.
Yeah.
Which is false.
Because here's the thing. There's this thing called the first law of thermodynamics.
Yes. The first law of thermodynamics, which does not apply to open thermodynamic systems. But we'll get to that in a minute, because let's let him say this, because it's so funny.
Which states that matter cannot be created or destroyed, only transferred in form.
Okay, Lane. No, it doesn't say that. It doesn't say anything remotely similar to that. Oh, my word. Lane, matter is not conserved. Okay? If you doubt me on that, just go and interview anybody who may be alive still who was in Hiroshima, Japan on the morning of the 6th of August, 1945, and ask them whether or not mass is conserved.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as the law of conservation of mass. Energy is the thing that's proposed to be conserved. That's also wrong. But that's for another day. The thermodynamics explicitly states that it refers to a closed thermodynamic system that is incapable of exchanging mass outside its boundary. How do I know that? Because mass is not included in the sum.
It's not, yeah.
Other people have said that there is a formulation of the first law including mass, which makes it relevant to open systems. Well, that's not the first law of thermodynamics, is it? That's a derivation of it, and it's based on some assumptions.
And you know, this is touted often by people to bolster this fallacious claim that calories are a tool of utility. They're not.
No, they're not. Fallacious is one of my favorite words, by the way. I love the word fallacious.
Fallacious.
Fallacious. Yes.
It's a large cesspit of bullshit. It doesn't work. I've done it myself several times, and all I ended up doing was I found myself walking around really hungry a lot, and it's got to do with the fact that, you know, this calories in, calories out argument is, you know, it completely neglects what it's going to do to your, you know, your hormones, your endocrine system, your thyroid, your metabolism, all those things. You'll just walk around feeling like shit. And that's why the vast majority of people that try that method end up putting all that weight right back on, and usually then some.
Yeah. Your body is not what in physics is referred to as a black body. It does not emit energy according to the rate at which it's added in, which is another assumption of thermodynamics. Your endocrine system, your hormonal system, the vast, complex myriad of biochemical reactions between point A and point Z all have an impact on how someone's body composition is or will change over the next conceivable period of time. None of that is covered by thermodynamics. It's just ridiculous reductionism of the nth degree. It's people saying, oh, I'm quoting first principles. Great, but you're quoting them out of context. Ergo, they're invalid, lame. Moron. Anyway.
How is, like, it's just annoying that something so fundamental we can't even get right as a community. Like, because these calories is a huge thing. That's what it's constantly brought up. Wasn't it first originally invented for steam engines?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So how did it get to nutrition? How did they cross that boundary? How did we get from steam engines to food?
Right. In the scientific fraternity, we have disciplines, we have rules, we have ideals, we have things to which we are supposed to adhere. The policing of the adherence is the problem. If a problem proves intractable, immovable, impossible to get at, with good discipline to answer the question, to give a clear outcome statement based in veracity, often it ends up in the too hard basket. And predicting what will happen to someone's body mass over time, given various nutritional interventions, is one of those things that's very difficult to get right accurately. There's a lot of noise around that signal. Huge noise.
Yeah.
Ergo, to get beyond that noise so that you can say, look, there is someone that's benefited from taking my advice to do something ridiculous, you would need to suggest to them, well, what they need to do is control their so-called calories by reducing them by 500 a day, ongoingly, until you lose the weight you need to, which will work purely because of the lack of mass that's being taken in, the actual thing that will affect a person's body composition.
Yeah.
It's not enough mass to subserve the needs of the body's losses of mass. Nothing to do with energy, it's mass. We do not have a calorie transport chain in our mitochondria, do we? It's an electron transport chain. Electrons interact with the Higgs field. They have mass. Photons do not interact with the Higgs field. They don't have any rest mass. Ergo, they cannot be brought to rest. Ergo, they cannot be consumed or eaten, let alone fuel your body, because they can't do that. If photons could fuel your body, all we needed to do is go and sit in the sun. We don't need food.
Yeah, and these people, they'll defend this hill with like their life depends on it. Like you ask them, these I'll like, as far as the calories in argument goes, I'll be like, okay, well, the FDA allows for a 20% variability, whether you're high or low, on every single label that you're looking at. So you count up every single meal, counting your so-called calories. By the end of your week, you're going to be way off from where you thought you were.
Exactly.
So that's when it comes to calories out. How do you count that? And then some of these people will concede that one, Bart. They'll say, oh, yeah, well, I mean, I'm not really sure about my calories out. Well, that's important. It's half the fucking formula. Like, and then the what's still work? No, it doesn't work. It's nonsense.
Rubbish. Absolutely. So anyway, to make it work, to get outside the noise so that you can see a difference, we have to reduce someone's calories by 500 a day ongoingly, which, as I said, will work over time. Absolutely. But here's the problem. It'll also destroy your metabolism in so doing. It is the most inappropriate, irresponsible, misanthropic, disinformation-based bit of advice I've ever heard anybody tell anybody else to ever do. It's nonsense. It's rubbish. It's dangerous, and it should stop. It's not based on first principles. It's got nothing to do with any of the laws of thermodynamics, let alone the first one. It's not underpinned by science, and this is not a fundamental lack of understanding from me. The fundamental lack of understanding is from others who want to claim that this is first principles and it's based in thermodynamics. No, it isn't.
Is that consensus too? Did you find like most people are, sort of on the other side of the ledger from you on calories as well?
On most topics in the universe at most times, yes. I find myself on the outer, and that's where I want to be. I don't want to be in the crowd. I want to be on one end of the bell-shaped curve. Yeah.
To be honest with you, if there are people who would look at your material and be like, well, this guy's just an asshole. And I would go, no, he's not an asshole. I would say, if he's willing to stand on this hill like this, there's a very serious reason for it, because consensus has no place in science.
Correct.
None whatsoever. It has none. It has no validity whatsoever. So if there's someone who's standing there saying, listen, I'm welcome to the conversation. Come tell me why I'm wrong. And if you can't do it, I don't care what consensus said, that guy's probably correct. It's just the way that seems painfully obvious for me to understand. But people, like I said, they'll just defend this hill like it's like their life's dependent, even if they can't. Even if you ask a very simple, very fundamental, very basic question about the very fundamentals of it, and they can't answer it, they'll still be like, "Oh, well, it works though. Everything is still, it's still just fine." It's crazy to me that it's gotten this far. Like, I can see why you would want out of academia. I can see exactly why. Because if I haven't been doing, the online thing with my coaching business for very long, but even already, it's exhausting. It's just the constant. You're just like, oh my God. All right. Like, but I did want to make a comment about your Wol products. I do have an anecdote. So
cool.
As an athlete, I tore my PCL on my right knee, and I ended up having a bone marrow edema in my right knee. I bought that product, and now I obviously can't claim any cause and effect here, but I was back on the mat within probably 3.5 months from it. And it was expected to be a much, much, much longer recovery than that. So you, as the listener, can take that for what it's worth, but it absolutely did that for me. There's no, there's no doubt about it. So I'm a believer in that product. I haven't tried the other two. I did try the flagship product, which was the Stem Enhance. The other two, from what I do understand, was there's a blood flow. It's like an optimizer, correct? That's the one. Yeah. The plasma flow.
Yep.
And there's another one, right?
Yes. We have Cyactive. That's a blue pigment derived from a different cyanobacter from the one from which the Stem Enhance is derived.
Right on.
And it naturally occurs in that bacteria, and it's extracted, filtered, cleaned up, made safe for consumption, and activated in a proprietary fashion so that it does what it's supposed to. Yep. And what it does is it knocks down both LOX and COX inflammatory pathways, thus reducing your chronic systemic inflammatory overburden.
Yeah.
Thus, if you understand the etiology, the underpinnings, the causation, most likely, of disease processes such as atherosclerosis, heart disease, diabetes type 2, and other autoimmune conditions vastly and variously, most forms of cancer and most dementia, as well as obesity, then you'll understand that reducing your inflammatory overburden is a good idea.
Yeah.
So that's what this one does. So those are our three synergistic core products that I promote that folks get in a thing called a wellness pack. That is folks who want to be retail customers who want to buy the product and pay for it. Those folks should buy those three products in a wellness pack, which is a monthly repeating order. You can get wellness packs in 3, 4, or 6 product variations. You can populate them yourself with whatever products you want at whatever level, but those are the 3 products I suggest that you take daily. And you'll get about an 18% discount by having a wellness pack as opposed to just casually ordering those products as and when. So that's worth doing, I think. If you don't want to pay for the products and you want them for free, we've got a program for that too. So anybody interested in that just needs to let us know and we'll tell you how to do it. It's very easy. It's not even hard, by the way. It's a dead gimme.
Yeah, it's I was very surprised at the results that I had. I mean, the orthopedic I had was saying, this is probably going to be a 5-month recovery, and it went, I was lifting and everything, like within just over 3 months, 12 weeks. And I was right back in it and fine. So, I mean, I can't, like I said, I can't claim a cause in it, but it's pretty clear that it definitely does help. I mean, I've listened to you do a couple podcasts on stem cells, and they're a fascinating thing as well. Like, I mean, they really do magic in the human body. Very, very, beneficial thing. And they have been and full length telomeres, I think you were mentioning as well in that too, which is another good thing.
Yeah. Amazing, isn't it? If you understand
yeah.
telomeres at all, you'll get why that's a good thing. Basically, the telomere length is a bit of DNA on the end of each one of your chromosomes. It's like the aglet on the end of a shoelace, the plastic thing that stops it from fraying. Every time a cell divides, as they do throughout their life to keep viable numbers of cells up as cells die off and things, that telomere gets shorter each time. And then when it gets to a certain critical short length, that's the message for that cell to stop dividing. So when it dies at the end of its life term, it's not replaced except with scar tissue. It's part of the process of aging. It gives your body tissue. It gives your body tissues a clock. Yeah. So anyway, when you release adult stem cells, your own adult stem cells using cereal products, and they go around your blood and they find a cell they want to replace, that cell's damaged, I'll make a new one. They do that. And they do it with a full-length telomere, meaning that that cell has a biological age of 0. So the more of your cells that can be replaced with new ones with full-length telomeres, in effect, biologically, I'm not allowed to say it's a fountain of youth, so I won't. See how I said fountain of youth while disclaiming I'm not allowed to say it? Get away with that?
I didn't hear that at all.
I'm not saying it's a fountain of youth. I'm just saying you can do your own maths on that.
That's fascinating. That's a thing. That is super, super, super cool. Yeah, like I said, I'm a consumer of it. I got to replenish my product, as a matter of fact. But yeah, Bart, that's it for me. That's all I had.
Awesome.
That was it. Yep, that was. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you for yours, and thank you everyone for sitting through another interesting exchange of views on various topics with another interested party. It's cross-pollination. It's what we should all be doing here on the YouTube channels. So with that in mind, how do people find your channel that haven't already? Where do they get to you from?
Sure. I should probably mention I'm a health coach. I specialize in men, usually any sort of metabolic dysfunction, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, anything along those lines. I specialize in men between the ages of 35 and 60. You can find me at the.ancestral.perspective. That's on TikTok and Instagram, or on my website, you can visit www.theancestralperspective.com.
Awesome. Very good. Right. See you next time, boys and girls. We're probably someone to be wrong on the interwebs or something.